Welcome, everybody, to the Nightly News Podcast. This is Professor Paul Miller, and I'm sitting in today with one of my favorite guests, and, as I recall, one of my very first guests on the Nightly News Podcast. I gotta see, this is one of the things I had problems with Adrian, is I was so used to calling her old job title that it just, rattled off, and, to me, it's Career Services Director Steve Hassinger. That is no longer the case. In fact, since the last time we had you on the podcast, you have received I don't want to call it a new position, but a more refined and defined position as the Dean of Career Services?
The Dean of Career Services and Development, yes. And you're not the only one having a problem getting used to that title. I still, myself, am having a difficult time after 17 years with the prior title.
Well, if there's anybody that's deserving of that position, it's you, Steve. You've been one of the, and I've been here, March will be 8 years that I've been at Central Penn College. Where does the time go? You are one of the few that has been a constant all along, and you are absolutely deserving of that position, and I hope that it's not a whole lot more of additional work for you in addition to the amount that you already do. But from the Nightly News, we would like to congratulate you on that promotion. I mean, how do you classify it?
Yeah, and I appreciate that very much. I'm still doing all the things that I did before, but one of the things that it has really enabled me to do more is to interact with the academic deans. So now we have these non-academic deans, Adrian Thoman being one of them, along with Megan Peterson and Melissa Mahoney. So I think it's given us, on kind of the staff side of the institution, an opportunity to interact even more closely. Not that we didn't interact with them before and have great support from them, but interact more closely. So the academic piece and the non-academic piece, which interacts on so many levels, being able to meet on a regular basis.
And I think that's really cool in terms of how coordination of different initiatives is going. I know that you and I have talked personally, and that was one of the biggest things that you pointed out that you appreciate by this is now you're sort of, instead of having to run things up the chain, you're now in those meetings, and so when you're trying to coordinate across departments, which you do frequently, you work with all of our departments here on campus,
right.
That's a little bit easier for you to do. So, Steve, congratulations from the Nightly News.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that.
We are also here with the newly minted Secretary of the Nightly News Media Club, Nash McComsey. Nash, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Pleasure to be on the show today, Paul.
Well, I got to tell you, one of the things that the Nightly News is in the middle of is we are in a transition phase ourselves. Obviously, pandemic, 2 terms online, but we also have lost, over the past 2 terms, 3 of the most influential people in Nightly News history, and that's Brian, Christiana, Tyler, Coleman, and Christian Fulp. And so Nash has been one of the students who has been a part of the Nightly News for about a year, but has agreed and happily taken the position of secretary and will be the secretary in the rest of this year and in 2021. So Nash, we're so glad to have you as a club officer, and hopefully that gives you some more opportunities to be on podcasts and to write some more stories. I know that you're going to be writing about the Back to Class Blast, which hopefully we'll get something from you on that here pretty soon, but it's going to give you some more opportunities. So
that's right, and I'm looking forward to those opportunities. I've got some pretty big shoes to fill. We've lost a couple club members to graduation, the horrible thing, but it's going to be some learning experience. I'm happy to take on that sort of task.
And I always say that I hate when we lose people, but obviously that's our goal here
right,
at Central Penn, which kind of shifts us into our discussion today. Steve, the Career Resource Center is celebrating dates are all sort of relative, but a 10-year anniversary. In fact, cruising through social media yesterday, I saw that you did a really nice video talking about some of the services that you offer for students, and basically with that tagline, look, once you're graduated, that's not the end of your Central Penn experience. So can you talk to us a little bit, and we'll get to the 10-year anniversary piece, but can you talk to us a little bit about that video and what were some of the key points that you made there?
Yeah, we recently did a series of videos throughout the campus regarding a campaign that said, we can do it together. You don't have to do it alone. We can do it together. And that's really the way Career Services approaches things. So we work with students even before they are enrolled at Central Penn sometimes. We have students that they're not quite sure what academic program is the right fit for them, or they're not sure what kind of career path they want to go. So we've worked with prospective students to try to help them figure that out. Obviously, we're here to work with students throughout their time at Central Penn. Maybe they're looking for a part-time job while they're in school. They're looking for an internship opportunity. Kristen Fike's our internship coordinator, and she will work with them through that. Obviously, we're here for them when they're graduating to help them with finding a job in their field, but we're also here for them after graduation, whenever they need our assistance down the road. So we serve prospective students, current students, and our alumni.
And I think that is something that I work with a lot of my students on, to understand why you would want to be engaged with career services while you're in school. I think for a variety of reasons that students feel, well, I don't really need to go to a job fair. Or I don't really need to think about an internship in my freshman year. And that's just absolutely not true. In fact, in our particular program, Steve, we are starting to work with experiential learning and developing that prior to internship. In fact, I think next term we are going to be piloting a program with one or two of our students that allows them to go out and do a professional project type. I don't want to call it a mini internship, but that's kind of what it is. Yeah. And I think that this, as a school, the direction that we're going in to try to enhance the amount of experiential learning opportunities, I think speaks to why it's so important that students get involved with career services, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. That is so important, because what's the question that employers ask when you graduate? What kind of experience do you have? All right. So students will say, how do I gain experience if nobody's going to hire me? Well, the experiential learning piece can play a huge role in helping to build that experience throughout your time at Central Penn. So we always tell students early on in their education, if you have no idea what you want to do, come and see us in Career Services, because we can try to help you figure it out. And then we tell students, if you know exactly what you want to do, come and see us in Career Services, because we can help you figure out a plan and a path to get to where you want to go.
And Nash, you're coming up to... You're very close. I think you're still technically a junior, but you're very close to being a senior. So that experiential learning piece is something that we can certainly talk about. But you're getting close. You're going to be doing an internship within the next 3 or 4 terms. Have you thought about that? Have you thought about any maybe opportunities that you might have, or have you thought about what direction you want to go in there?
Oh, well, certainly I would say that I've thought about it. I would say that it's certainly a little difficult right now to acquire those sort of opportunities. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's important for our career services staff, Steve, to be around to help bridge that gap. I feel like a lot of our college students are coming in and they're consuming the education, but when it comes to what direction to take that education in, what to do with it, how to apply for jobs, that's sort of something that we need a little bit of assistance with. That's where career services, I would say, comes in and helps us out. And you better believe that I will be looking up some opportunities with Central Penn after I graduate and for internships while I'm still here.
Which brings us to, again, one of the main reasons why we're here today is that 10-year anniversary. Now, Steve, you had the biggest and grandest plans for an anniversary celebration here. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, that's kind of thrown a lot of things up in the air. First, tell me a little bit about how you're planning on celebrating, even though you're not able to do that event here on campus.
Well, absolutely. One of the things is we've reached out to student workers that we've had down through the years, and we've reconnected with many of them, which has been a lot of fun. Many of them we're in contact with on a fairly regular basis anyways, but just kind of seeing where they're at. As a matter of fact, Kristen Fike, our internship coordinator currently at Central Penn, was my very first student assistant in career services when I was an office of one. So it's been good to reconnect with them. President Emeritus Todd Milano was instrumental in helping us get the Career Resource Center set up. When we were originally planning to have a celebration back in April, he was going to come in and he was going to share some of the thoughts about why the Career Center was so important at that time and why he was a proponent for that. We did not have that celebration in April because of COVID and so forth. Also, a lot of employer partners that we work with. have been instrumental in the Career Resource Center and its success. So, we were planning on inviting a number of them back. So we're looking at possibly doing some type of a virtual celebration, or maybe even we wait until, next spring, see what's happening by next spring, and, have a nice big celebration of a 10+1 anniversary or something like that.
10+1, I like that. Now, something that Nash had mentioned is another piece of this. A big part of career services is helping and assisting students in finding the internships. How difficult have you found it at this point? Because many offices that we've partnered with are working remotely, or if nothing else, working on with a limited staff and just don't have the ability to host internships. How difficult have you found that for assisting our students who need internship to graduate?
Yeah. Well, and Nash talked about career services being able to be the bridge for students, to those opportunities. Employers are also looking to career services to help us be the bridge to help them come up with virtual programs and so forth, and still provide the types of valuable experiences that students need. Plus, those students are their workforce of tomorrow. So they don't just want to totally get away from those internship opportunities. But they, too, have been trying to navigate and figure this out as we go. When a lot of businesses went remote back in the end of March, beginning of April, they were just gearing up for big internship seasons. A lot of larger companies in particular that have a very structured internship type of program. That internship might run from mid-May to mid-August. So they had already recruited all their interns. They had already hired them. They had a plan in place for them, and then COVID hits, and now they had to go virtual. So with a lot of those larger companies, they managed to keep all or most of their interns engaged, but they maybe shrunk the time frame to more like a 5-week time frame. And they tried to include networking pieces in there where they make the intern feel as though they are, engaged with the company and with other representatives, to give them a feel for the culture as well, because that's really hard to do. One of the great things about going out and doing an internship, physically being there, you get a real feel for the company. And is this company a good fit for me? Is this the right culture or not? Not just is this the right type of work for me, but is this company a good fit? That's hard to do when you're virtual. So we belong to an organization called NACE, National Association of Colleges and Employers. Kristen and I, in particular, have participated in a lot of town meetings, a lot of discussions with our colleagues, with employer representatives, and we've all been trying to figure this out as we go. Now, one of the things I will say is that as we're further into this now, virtual opportunities are creating some opportunities for students who may not otherwise have that opportunity. So I'll give you one specific example. We're very involved with the Washington Internship Institute. And I know Kristen has been talking to a student recently who's very interested in the Washington Internship Institute, but she's not at a place in her life right now where she could just pick up and move to Washington for 4 months to participate in that program.
I wouldn't imagine too many people are in that boat, honestly.
Right. I mean, particularly, she's a little bit older. I think she's, mid-20s or so. She's got family responsibilities and so forth. So WII, now Washington Internship Institute, is offering a fully remote experience. And if you want to go down there and you want to live in D.C., they have the housing there and you can live in the housing, but you're not actually going out to, the Department of Defense or to the White House or, to the IRS or these other places that are hosting their interns. But they're making that opportunity available virtually. So it's going to give this student an opportunity to participate in something as prestigious as Washington Internship Institute without having to physically live there. So, the old saying goes, you kind of try to make lemonade out of those lemons.
One interesting thing is, I work directly with all of our comm interns, and it was really tough for a few of those graduates. Now, fortunately, someone like Tyler did his internship early, or else he probably would have run into this exact same thing. But I would say that this has been difficult for all of us. So I applaud you for not only doing what you can with the places that are still accepting interns, but also brainstorming virtual opportunities, because that's really important. Speaking of virtual opportunities, obviously you were talking about not being able to have that anniversary, but you've had some pretty big virtual experiences over the last few months, namely the Business Partner of the Year breakfast, which corporate communications student Tim Umstead was the recipient of the Intern of the Year, which we're very proud of. But that was a virtual event, and as you pointed out, we'd all be like to sit here with a plate of eggs and bacon, but it didn't. That's not how it went. But the event itself was excellent, and so again, I applaud you for that. I'm sure a lot of logistical things behind the scenes made it difficult, but the one I really want to focus on is the virtual internship fair that you did over the summer. Nash, you participated in that event. What were your initial thoughts?
So it was interesting. It was a bit of a learning experience, definitely from the user side. I was kind of confused in terms of the structure at first, but you really saw that a lot of the companies that did decide to sign up for the job fair were really taking this seriously, and they had fairly good presentations to give everyone there. So I think it's just a matter of companies being ready for this sort of thing. They have to be prepared for crazy pandemic like we're living in right now. So that's sort of what we're seeing in the job internship fair. I would say that my experience overall was pretty positive. I enjoyed it.
And I would say, too, that in the same way that you felt it a little off-kilter, they also probably felt off-kilter in that medium.
Certainly, and so did the companies, I imagine, too.
Yeah.
So what was your initial feedback from the companies from the summer internship fair?
Well, the companies had really good feedback about the interaction that they had with the students, because they felt like the students who were there were really genuinely interested. And as a matter of fact, I just talked to a number of employer representatives on Friday during a meeting to plan the CPAC job and internship fair, which I know we're going to talk about in a little while as well. But they were saying that one of the things that they're seeing with the virtual job fairs, I think each one probably goes a little bit better, because as Nash said, it was a learning experience for them too, and they kind of had to figure out how best to prepare and so forth. And I heard one employer saying, you would think that we have all this time on our hands now because we don't have to travel to these different locations for job fairs and things. But they said that time is being eaten up by us trying to prepare our booth, a virtual booth, and do so well, so that students are going to be engaged and are going to be interested in interacting with us. So we're learning on both sides. I think things are going better. From an employer standpoint, they appreciate the interaction that they're having with the students. One of the things that we're seeing is that students who register, not we necessarily at Central Penn, but I'm talking on a broader spectrum here. Maybe you get 500 students register for an event, and maybe 250, actually log in and show up. So, but the students who are showing up are students who seem to be genuinely interested, and they feel like it's a valuable use of their time.
I think that one of the things that I hope to see, and maybe just general feedback for CPEC, what I saw, because I went to all the rooms as well, I was a part of it, I enjoyed almost all of them. And number one, it was wonderful that they all did this. And I'm hoping that some of the businesses, though, a lot of times when you're at a job fair, it's sort of one pitch. That each person who comes up to the table sort of gets to sort of break the ice. I think that because you're in a virtual space, people that go into a room that don't instantly find something that's applicable to them are tuning out. Right. Whereas when you're at a job fair, it's kind of tough to do that. You're standing face to face with somebody. You're going to probably give them a little bit more attention. So I think that, if I'm just giving some advice to businesses out there that are participating in job fairs, I would really try to take it and make it individualized for each of the people to come in to keep them engaged. Because as much as job fairs are about pitching the students to the businesses, it's also about the businesses pitching themselves to the students. And I just in a general sense, some of the instant feedback that I would give. Number one, you did a great job. It was very, very well done. I just hope that some of the businesses sort of, as they go, start seeing, okay, instead of just making this one blanket pitch that we do to these individuals, maybe we start asking them questions and start getting out of them, and then associating us with their goals, which I think that we should see going forward. A couple of things I just wanted to chat about before we conclude our podcast. Obviously, and this breaks my heart, but CPEC Job Fair is going to be moving virtual this year, and I think that's obviously a good call. It's not like a magic wand's going to get waved. This is all going to go away, and in the February time frame that you're typically doing it within, it's just going to go away. So you've had to make the decision to move it virtual. So can you just give us a pitch about CPEC and how students might register and start preparing for this?
Yeah, so this is the largest job and internship fair that we're involved with each year because it's a consortium event with us and 14 other schools. And we have a number of employer partners as part of our advisory board as well to help plan this job and internship fair. So we did make the decision about a month ago to go virtual with that event. It was originally scheduled for February 16th, I think it was. We're now going virtual, and we've moved it to March 3rd. So it will be March 3rd from 1 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And there'll be more information coming out about how students can register, but one of the things that I think speaks to what you were just talking about in terms of that in student engagement is that students will have the opportunity to actually schedule appointments with employers and schedule sessions. So an employer can do a kind of an open session, where they open it up to anybody who wants to join them for that 10 or 15-minute period, and you can also have individualized one-on-one interactions and appointments. So there'll be an opportunity for students to register in advance.
I love that.
And we're going to encourage all students to register in advance for this event. With the live event at the Radisson, people could walk in that day if they wanted to without registering in advance. But for this, we're going to really need people to register in advance. We're using a different virtual platform than we used for the internship fair that we had here. We did that via Zoom. It was a smaller internship fair just for us. On this, we'll be using something called Handshake, which is a system that a lot of schools use for job postings and so forth. So students will actually have to create a Handshake account. One of the nice things about that, though, is it gives them access to seeing job postings from across the country for employers that post on Handshake. Central Penn does not have Handshake. We're not a Handshake school, but our students will still be able to register, or our alumni will be able to register, create a free Handshake account, and then sign up for the fair.
Sure. Nash, before we get out, I want to have a chance to chat with you. So you've engaged in your first virtual job fair.
Yes.
Based on your experience, and so how are you going to approach it differently? And maybe a better question, what are a couple of tips for students who have never attended a virtual job fair and this might be their first time?
Sure. So whenever I went into my first virtual job fair, it was I wanted to make sure that I was headed to the right place. And I'm going to be honest, I showed up pretty much 10 minutes before the thing started. So I trying to get my bearings, trying to figure out what's going on. I think the best thing for students to do going into this would be to prepare. Make sure that you know who's going to be there and who's going to be there when. Make sure you isolate the opportunities that you're looking for and be open to, some other suggestions. But just make sure that you have an idea of what you're going to be getting into, because if you have that, everybody else will take care of you. The businesses will be happy to show you their presentations if you're on time. The career services folks will be ready to move you to the appropriate room when need be. It's just going to remove a lot of hassle, and it's going to make it a lot easier for you to keep in tune with the pitch that the business is going to be giving you. I think that one of the biggest struggles that businesses are going to have is holding students' attention, even more so virtually than in person, which is already an issue. So being able to engage these students, being able to hook these students with the initial presentation is going to be important. So it's important that you got to be on time for that hook.
Mm-hmm. Well, I appreciate that. So March 3rd from 1 to 4, Steve's going to send out some more information. Maybe we'll even have you back a little bit next term as well to maybe go over CPEC in a little bit more detail. But I just always want to make sure that we leave with a pitch of what you're doing. Yes, the classic resume help, you're always available for that. LinkedIn assistance, you're always available with that. Skills assessment, we talked about that earlier. But one of the things that's most unique here is the Career Closet. Can you just give maybe a quick 30-second elevator pitch on your Career Closet here at the college?
Sure. So we have tons of free professional clothing in our Career Center.
Literally tons or figuratively tons?
If we loaded it all up, I think we're getting close to a literal ton at this point in time. But more than we can display. We have a lot that's just in tubs and sitting there and so forth. So we're actually looking right now, starting the process of looking for a dedicated space on campus that we can set up and leave that clothing displayed on a regular basis. We're also working with Lindsay Garber from Residence Life right now at looking at possibly setting up a day where maybe food pantry and clothing is available, down in the theater for a giveaway.
Please let me know if that's the case, because I will bring my classes.
Yeah, that'll be happening. I'm sure that'll be happening. We're going to be talking either today or next week a little bit more about that and arranging a date for that to happen. But we have a lot of great professional clothing that's up there for free. obviously, we may not have exactly the size that everybody is looking for, although we do have a wide variety of sizes, believe me. But we also have gift cards to community aid that can be used just for professional clothing or footwear. So we can work with students to provide that to them if they have a need. All they have to do is reach out to us, and we'll arrange a time when they can come in and they can look through the clothing that we have there, pick out items that they want. I think students sometimes they misunderstand and they think, okay, well, can I wear this to the interview and then bring it back, next day or something? No, you take it, it's yours, keep it. It's free clothing for you.
And the one good thing is, Steve, you're probably the kindest person I've ever met, as is the rest of the career services staff. So very welcoming. Well, number one, if you want to get in touch, you can simply reach out to careerservices@centralpenn.edu to take advantage of any or all of these particular services that Career Resources Center offers. And again, from the Nightly News, A, congratulations on becoming dean, and B, seriously, congratulations on 10 years of the Career Resource Center, Steve.
Absolutely. Thank you, Paul. We always appreciate working closely with the Nightly News and all that you do to help us promote our events and attend our events and support us. So it's a great working relationship that we have.
Fantastic. Well, before we get out of here today, I wanted to thank you very much, Nash, for being here. Nash, it's always a pleasure to have you, and here's to the future of you being on the Nightly News.
Very, very excited. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Not a problem. All right, well, that's going to do it for another episode of the Nightly News podcast, but stay tuned. We are going to be back with Tyler Coleman and Parker Rose talking about the shift in presidency from the Nightly News. But for this particular segment, for Nash McComsey, Nightly News Secretary, and from the Dean of Career Services and Development, Steve Hassinger, this is Professor Paul Miller, and we'll see you again next time on the Nightly News podcast.
This is Dr. Linda Federizi Williams, and you are listening to the Nightly News podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Nightly News podcast. What we have here for our second segment of our podcast today is we have graduating co-president Tyler Coleman and new Nightly News president until the end of 2020, Parker Rose. Parker, you have been a secretary of the club, and it's frankly an honor to have you kind of take it the rest of the year. It was kind of tough for us to convince you to do this because you are actually going into internships, so we are actually getting ready to say goodbye to you as well, which is just another thing that upsets me because as much as I love getting to know all of you, it's frankly terrible whenever you go to leave. But at first, you weren't super keen on moving up into the president's role. Tell us about why that is.
It was honestly because of my major, me being an accounting major. I feel like there was more members in the club like Leslie Heimbach, who is a great asset to the club, who did so much, from writing multiple stories for the blog, attending every meeting, always making sure everything was on track, to when we have events, always offering to make food. So I thought she was more worthy of the president position than I was, because she also has the experience over me. But after me and her even had a conversation, she told me that I should take the position and she'll run as vice, to which I respect her options, and I ended up stepping up as the main role.
So a couple of reasons why we wanted. First of all, you've been with the club the longest, so there's a seniority factor. Secondly, you've been a club officer for the longest. Basically, we're losing almost all of our club officers, so our main thought process in terms of who is the next president and why it should be you is because really what I want and I hope that you're able to do with the new officers is to I don't want to say train them because that's not the right word, but kind of just pass along that knowledge. Hey, we've done this before. This is how we've done it. You're sitting in a meeting, you're putting together the publication. This is how we've done it before. Just sharing that knowledge from sort of one regime to another, if you will. It was really kind of sad to me. I just put out our final out, which I hope that both of you liked. I, first of all, felt awful that you guys came down and if you had any idea how hard it is to get 10 minutes when you've got 10 hours plus all the game footage to go through. I'm sure the first time you saw it, you're like, geez, I was only in this for 5 seconds. But so I really wanted to make sure that I had something that focused on you, the three of you, because you really were a very important part of this season. So I appreciate that. But, Parker, you say so much about you being an accounting major. The Nightly News is not just for communication students. Yes, we're hard on communication students. We want them to be in, and they should be in, but to be honest, you're one of the people who has done such a wonderful job even without being a communication student. And you talked in our interview for the documentary about how valuable this is going to be to you. So I hope that you stop saying that.
I did. After I talked to Leslie with it, I realized it because you are right, Professor Miller. In the our interview, I did say that helped because I'll be honest, before I was a member, my writing style wasn't the best. I'm not a huge English major or paper, but being able to do some writing for Nightly News helped me actually get the foot in the door to be a part of the All About the Birds podcast as well, helping them do some writings as well. So, and like you said, it's a good resume builder as well.
And trust me, every single person that's hiring right now in the job description, strong written and oral communication skills, and you've already told me that your writing's improved, but also your oral communication skills have improved too, being on the podcasts. Certainly you're involved with the Nightway as well. So, Tyler, I want to go to you. This will be your last official podcast as a student. We are recording this the final week. He said he's got a couple of more things to turn in. We hope and certainly really will demand that you come back to the Fantasy Football Strategy Guide podcast, and that we hope to see you come next March in the booth at In the Net. One of the things that we've talked about privately, and I'd love if you'd share about now, you've been president this whole year, correct? It's been you and Christian this whole year?
Yeah, I believe so. We
Well,
took over in January.
Well, Brian passed that along to you, and he was kind of that buffer, one-term buffer, which is sort of what I want you to be, Parker. Here's my question. I had you back on the show last year before we even knew anything about COVID-19, and you had given me a list of goals that you had for your, 3-term tenure here at the Nightly News. Obviously, some of those goals were taken away from you. So let's look back. What were some of the goals that you did get to achieve this year? And what were some that maybe you can share with Parker and see if he can help you get to the finish line?
Well, I would say that some things we got to achieve was definitely being active on campus, at least as much as we could. We did a great job at fundraising, well, at least before all the COVID stuff took place anyways. But, some of the things I think that we have to continue to work on is just trying to get people to be active and be part of the club. And I know that, for Parker, that might be a little bit difficult since he's only here one more term. But just try to do what you can and, keep trying to be active and attend as many different school activities as you can and just show how great this club can be.
I think that one of the things that I don't want you to sell yourself short on, Tyler, that we really have to be proud of, and something, honestly, that I took away from doing the documentary was how important these sports broadcasts are to the school. And I have to tell you that while you came in season 2, I really believe, and I certainly hope, that you want to continue being a part of what we're doing with the sports broadcast. I'm crossing my fingers that baseball will return. I certainly hope basketball might even come back. I don't have any insight on when that might be. But I guess what I'm saying is assuming that the Atlanta Braves don't hire you for their front office, as long as you're in the area, you're going to still be a part of sports. I mean, we'll figure out a way to pay you.
Yeah, that's my goal. I'm never sure what's going to happen or where I'm going to end up job-wise, but as long as I can, I would like to be here, whether it's for basketball or they cancel the season, go right into baseball. It's always going to be my home for where I really learned how to broadcast and got into the field. And no matter where my career might take me, this is something that I'll always look back on and be like, yeah, this is where I learned, this is where I got my start, and I was very appreciative of that.
Well, and I really hope that at least this coming up year in baseball, I hope it's the 4 of us again. I really do. And I know that maybe it'll just be a game here, a game there. You guys will have to maybe make a special trip or something. But I'm going to make sure that some way or another, I don't care if I have to pay you out of my own pocket, I'm going to make sure that you guys are getting paid, because it is, even though you're not still students and we can't really call you student workers anymore, we will figure out a way to get you guys paid, because I have to be honest with you. One of the things that I really took away from making the documentary is how much I love calling sports and how honored I am that as part of my job, one small part of my job, I get to call basketball and baseball. And what makes it so interesting for me, even further beyond that, is when I see how many views these games have gotten and how far we came this year. And here's what's even worse. Now we have officially all the equipment that we need to have headsets, to have, reduce all this ambient noise. The quality of our setup from now on is going to be phenomenal. And I just really thank you, Tyler, for really being such a wonderful person, so professional. You've got some other opportunities going forward, but I just thank you so much. You may not have been there from the beginning, but you really helped us get to the point where we're legitimate now. You can sit down and watch a game and you're sitting here thinking, this is you made the point, Parker. It's just like, hey, this is like sitting down at a major league, minor league game. Like, this is the real deal. And we're sitting here calling this game and people are watching and people are talking. And that's something I'll never forget. So no matter what ends up happening in terms of sports here at Central Penn College, Brian, Tyler, Christian, Parker, I'm never going to forget what you did here. And I know that you all want to move on to the next phase of your life. I'm still going to be here. I'm still going to be working with students. And so I want you to know that however significant this is to you in your life, I just hope you remember the impact that you've had, not only on myself, the club, the athletics department, but this school as a whole. So I really hope in some small way that resonates with you, Tyler, because you're made for this, man. And I wish this is just, I don't know how else to say it, the worst time you could be going out and looking for a job in media right now because of what's going on with the pandemic. But here's the thing. It's going to come back. I don't know exactly when. I don't have a crystal ball. These jobs are going to be there. Sports is bigger now than it ever has been. There is opportunity out there. So taking that opportunity, I'll do anything I can to help you out. But I just appreciate and I want you to know you'll always be the color commentator of the Central Penn Knights baseball team as long as you're wanting it. So,
well, I appreciate that, and I can't thank you guys enough for bringing me into the club and getting these opportunities. Because when I first started here at the college, I knew that's what I wanted to do, but it's just kind of like, hey, how do I get there? And just by joining the Nightly News Media Club, and even though I wasn't there at the beginning, but to see where like this broadcasting project was when I first started to where it is now, it's fantastic to see all the changes that we've made and how much it's improved. And honestly, I don't see how it's not going to keep getting better as we move forward.
Well, I mean, the biggest part is we need people to fill your shoes. And on one hand, for you, for the student, even as a part-time student, our accelerated schedule is great. For someone like Parker who's going full-time accelerated schedule, great. You have an extra year of earning power. On our side, from the professor's situation, from the program, and from the club, the accelerated schedule has its downsides because right to the point where, like, I should have you for another year. I should have you for another year. I should have had Brian Christian for another year. And that is part of the issue. And frankly, as you all know, I can't do athletics myself. We have to have a team. And part of the reason that I want you to continue on is because I know you love it, and I'd love, again, to pay you for that. But part of it also is I need you to help mentor the next Tyler or Parker or Brian to, because I can't do it myself. I cannot do everything myself, and I need people, and I need to have somebody there to help those people, even in an informal capacity. So, but I just want to thank you. So, obviously, that was one of the big things I wanted to point out to you. Yes, we only did, when you think of 2020, and you put COVID aside, we still did 8 games, which is just almost as many as we had done the previous season, and we did it in, a week, 10 days? We also did a great number of basketball games, and I was proud to be there to see Jay Lynn and have her amazing season. And it was awesome to be there with you and Christian, and of course Parker, you were there as well. So don't sell yourself short in this last year. You got a ton of athletics in, and again, doors open for you going forward. Still, though, on the other hand, what were some of the things? Now, I know that you'd said bringing people in, spreading the words of the club, but think about over the last 6 months just not really being here on campus. What are some things that you really wished you could have done, and maybe pass that on to Parker and put that on his to-do list?
One thing I definitely think maybe try to do different or activities out in the community. Like I remember when we went to the American Lung Association Gala,
which we also missed. That was the first week in 2020 that we were locked down. We were supposed to go to the gala.
Right? And we were there doing it for service hours, but in reality, we were really helping out a group that needed the help. So I think that's something that, we could always try to keep doing more of. I always too, I'm big with social media, so I always thought it would be cool, hey, if we could get somebody to run the Twitter or Facebook account whenever our teams have games, maybe that's another way of, to go along with the broadcasting that we do. Just small things like that, but, keep doing the writing. Like Parker said, I agree with them. I would think that my writing skills vastly improved, so I know we talked about in club meetings about assigning people to specific beats about what areas that they like to write about. So I think doing all that stuff, the club will be in great shape moving forward.
One thing to your point that I will say, kind of give a teaser to, we are involved with the Combat Hunger that we're doing here at Central Penn College. We are going to be working specifically with the New Hope Ministries. So we are going to be doing some fundraisers later in the term. Obviously, at our first club meeting, we will be talking a little bit more about that. But we are going to be doing some food drives. We're trying to raise some money and doing some volunteer work. So I certainly, but I agree. I think, honestly, it was so sad. And I have to thank you. So I want to tell everyone. So Tyler was to the point where he had 45 of his 50 hours completed for his community service hours, which as a program we still require. The gala was canceled. Tell everybody what you did for your last 5 hours.
I showed up and worked with you on a Saturday morning at the baseball fields in Camp Hill for the Youth Challenger Baseball Club.
So I am a avid part of the Challenger Baseball in Camp Hill. We play at Fiala Field in Camp Hill Borough, and every year we have field cleanup in March. And you and I raked what seems like 50 trash cans full of leaves. Now, obviously, again, and ultimately, the Challenger Baseball did not have a season, which I'm still devastated by. But I appreciate... See, that's the types of things, Tyler, that's going to put you a long way in your life. That you're willing to do things like that. Yeah, it was a requirement, and I understand that, but you came out, you had a really positive attitude, you got to meet some influential people, and you weren't necessarily using it as networking, but it, in the end, it's something you can put on a resume. It's an organization that you at least now are more knowledgeable of, and you work a lot with Little League Baseball as well. Maybe that could be something that continues for you in the future. So those are the types of things, Tyler, that to me as a professor, that really is important to me, that you took that so seriously. And it was a little chilly, but it's still fun.
Well, I think that's one of the things is when we do activities like that is doing it in groups with each other. Going out together and doing these activities, it makes it a lot more fun. And I can easily say that because of this club, like going out and doing stuff like that, these were some of the best friends that I've made just by doing activities like this with everyone. So it's been a lot of fun.
Well, I certainly hope that those friendships remain. Parker, I know that you only have one more term. I know you're going to be on internship, so it might not necessarily be as active as you would like. But what are some of the goals that you have for your presidency, even though it's only through the end of the year? What are some things you want to get accomplished here?
Some things I would like to get accomplished is definitely get us some more members in the club that would like to step up and be broadcasters. We do have some new students on campus that we could probably possibly help you out with. Brian's younger brother, Aaron's coming to Central Penn. He might be a key person to try talking to be an anchor with you. My other goal is, like what Tyler mentioned, keep heavily with our volunteer efforts, because freshman, you know me with all the stuff I talk about, I'm heavy on volunteering and helping the community.
Well, you're going to be able to help us because, like I said, we're going to be doing this Combat Hunger, and we have a team as a Nightly News Media Club, and we're going to win. So it's just that simple.
Well, our club, look at all the accomplishments made of the club, the research expedition, so much. And that's one thing as our club, we're not just a club. I think my mindset as being a leader is we're a team. We do everything together. We work together. We
might argue every once in a while.
We might argue every once in a while and disagree on things, but at the end of the day, we're a team. We make each other stronger. And I say this, and I don't know if anybody went to the theater showcase I was in. I said it when I stepped down as president of the drama club. I said chemistry is the key that I build with with those fellow students, and that's one thing I built with, like, when we were in the broadcast. So it's the chemistry that we had. Memories are always going to be in your mind. The Phillies games that we went to, so many memories we made with the Nightly
There's another
News.
thing that got canceled this year. We had tickets to go to another experience, and I promise you, if they still have them next year, you'll all be invited because I still owe you a Phillies game. It's a networking experience that the Phillies offer for college students, and really, really fun. But that was just something today I was thinking about, that we missed that too.
But but the thing is with that, even though it was canceled, we each were able to experience that, which is what matters the most. And we were able to write a story, which was really good stories, both of them that were written. And it's a good resume builder, a good experience. And that's why I also tell students that are coming to Nightly News, take advantage of this opportunity to help your writing and also build your resume up.
I love it. So I will say that, Parker, you're going to be the president until the end of the year, and then Leslie Heimbaugh, who's on earlier, and Janelle Dulac are going to step up as co-presidents, and Nash McCumsey is going to be the secretary-treasurer in 21. So you're going to be hearing a lot more from them. Tyler, obviously, again, I hope to have you back in the booth for basketball, for baseball either later this year or next year. I look forward to having you on this fantasy football strategy guide throughout this year, and hopefully next year too, if we can make it work. But any final thoughts? Obviously, you've said so much about what this club has meant to you, but what was your favorite moment of all time being a part of this club?
Oh, that's tough. Definitely, as Parker brought up, going to the Phillies games.
Did you get to go to two?
I went to the first one with Brian, Dylan, and Christian. And we were actually just talking about that earlier today.
Why didn't you go to the second one?
I was on vacation that week you guys went. So, but yeah, I honestly, like I just wrote in my farewell story, I really think it was the broadcasting aspect and the writing. Just because it's so cool to be able to say, yeah, look, I broadcast for my sports or my college's sports teams. And then you can bring up the streams, or you can go on to Twitter and retweet your story that Central Penn has shared and things like that. But with Parker and Leslie taking over, I mean, these are two intelligent, hardworking people. I mean, this club is going to be in great shape moving forward, and I look forward to see what you guys can do.
And you can move into emeritus status as well if you continue wanting to be involved with the club as Brian has, and that's something that you have indefinitely. All that means is, you were once president. You are now have this emeritus status because you're still helping us spread the word of the Nightly News. So I'm forever indebted to you for your hard work with the athletics, and certainly your hard work in the classroom and in other ways with the club. But the athletics, I mean, it's a chance that we had to really build a bond. And honestly, I hope that when you're graduated, of course, and we're able to do so, we'll catch a game every once in a while, because you're one of those people that I would love to continue chatting with and keeping in touch with for sure.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to keeping in touch with you guys. It's really been, I can't believe that my college career is ending, but I'm thankful to get to know the people that I have here, and they really helped me build or become the person that I have, and I thank you guys a lot for that.
Of course. And Parker, we have one more term with you. You're going to continue being on the Fantasy Football Strategy Guide, and we're going to get you out to some games, basketball and baseball next year, to continue calling. So we will still hear more from you, but we'll give you a shot later to talk about your favorite times. Not now.
As I say, I'm looking forward to hopefully in the future that we get the call, because I'm going to be, and you guys could disagree if you want, but I think you guys are going to agree with this statement. Us as kids watching sports, I think we always had that dream, like we want to call a game. And I hit this, like, I sound like a broken record when I say this. Calling a baseball game under the lights is like a dream come true. I was able to experience that, and it's one of the best things to do.
So check out the Final Out. By the time that this podcast is released, all 4 of the Extra Innings episodes are available. You can type Final Out documentary. I've gotten great feedback from that, and the gentlemen are both in that. And then they had their own episode, number 3, with Brian, Tyler, and Parker, talking a little bit more about that. So please check that out. But otherwise, Tyler, tune back in October for the Fantasy Football Strategy Guide, so you can keep hearing Tyler. But send him some well wishes on Twitter, heels_r_better. And especially if you're a fan of the Braves, he's got lots of interesting things to say about the Braves, that's for sure. So, all right, for former now co-president of the Nightly News and current president emeritus, Tyler Coleman, and for new president of the Nightly News Media Club, Parker Rose, this is Professor Paul Miller, and we'll catch you next time on the Nightly News Podcast.